Let us all turn our thoughts inward and away from the outer physical world to the inner realms of love and light. And let us realize that each individual in this circle is as much a channel as the one who speaks, for we are all lending our life force to this experience. And as we keep our thoughts centered on love and the joy of life, we are open and receptive. Our Father in heaven, we lift our hearts to embrace the heart of your being, and we open to your love that we may share in your presence. Let your light show sign through this circle, that each one may manifest the channel of your beautiful love and the greatness of your being. Let your love be present in such great abundance that each one feels your presence and the beauty and the joy of your being. Good evening, my beloveds. It is a great privilege to be with you in your circle this evening. This is Eloah, and I have come to be with you and to speak with you, for it is my beloved servant, my beloved channel, that I have worked with for so long, that it gives me great pleasure to be with this circle that is so eager to hear the truth and to know the truth and to let it set you free. This evening I would speak on the subject of forgiveness. I would have you to consider the word forgiveness. And when you interpret the word forgiveness, it means to give before there is a need. My dear ones, it has been said that to forgive is divine, and indeed it is. And as we think of this subject of forgiveness, let us learn to first forgive ourselves. So many of you are lenient with others, but are hard on yourselves. There are times when you feel that you have made a mistake, that you feel that you may not be doing your best, and you, as you say, get down on yourself. And this, of course, brings you down farther. I would say to you tonight, love yourself. When you love yourself, you're loving God, as you've been told. When you love yourself, you're loving life. When you learn to give yourself the consideration that you would give God, you are thinking correctly, you are feeling correctly, and you see, as you love yourself and love others, then there will be no need for criticism or judgment, because it is criticism and judgment that brings about a need for forgiveness, is it not? This circle has become very bright in these weeks, and each week it becomes brighter. Each time you come together, you have more to give. And I would tell you that we have met on these dimensions while your body rests from your spirit, and we have joined together in the understanding of God's love and his truth. Let us consider the greatness of God's love. Let us consider that through God's love we were created. Let us consider that through God's love we are continually manifesting life force that animates our being. It is through God's love that we live and move and have our being. And as we consider this, then should we not forget about judgment and criticism? Should we not eliminate it from our feelings and our thoughts? When we start our day with gratitude to God for his love and his blessings that he gives us so freely without judgment, then it is easy to keep alive the contact of God's presence in your conscious awareness. His presence is within you at all times. His love and his joy is flowing through your being when you allow it. I would have you to think about forgiveness, and in the thought of others, let us consider the hardened criminal. On your physical plane, you do judge these individuals through your physical law, and you put them behind bars and sometimes kill them, eliminate their bodies. When you are thinking of the things that you hear on the news, how do you feel about these individuals? Do you judge them? Do you criticize them for their deeds? I tell you, my beloveds, God loves these hardened criminals as much as he loves what you call the greatest saint on earth. And his being is manifesting through every individual, and he has given us free will, all of us, to manifest on this physical plane as we see the need, as we understand. Let us consider, what is the difference between what you call the hardened criminal and the greatest saint on earth? Is it not a difference in understanding? Understanding not the physical laws, but the divine laws. Is it not a step in growth? This is much for you to digest and assimilate into your consciousness. But I tell you, my dear ones, when you remember that there is no death, and when you remember that this is not your true home, that it is just a schoolroom, and it is not real in the sense of eternity, your physical plane is a place for you to come and to learn. It is a play on a stage, and each has a role to play. And think of the Jesus story and realize if there had not been a Judas, the story would have been completely different. Do you think that Jesus loved Judas any less than he loved any of his disciples? I say no. And when you feel that you are not measuring up to your best good, and you criticize and condemn yourself and feel guilty, self-condemnation, you are interrupting God's plan for your life. But you have the free will to do this. But I ask you, can you learn to rise above this? Can you learn to mark your mistakes and turn your thoughts to the answer and go on, walk on up the path of God's love and light? Reach out for his hand. Let his presence within you become so strong in your consciousness that you have no doubt of his presence, of his guidance, of his love for you, no matter what you do. And as you look around at the world and as you think of others, think the same thoughts, that he loves them all equally as he loves you and everyone else. He judges not by appearances, but he judges righteous judgment, as you have been told. And he knows that he has given you this freedom to play this play on this stage you call earth, to learn and to grow, to understand yourself and to understand life. Be grateful, my dear ones, for this opportunity, and start your day with a gratitude, a song of gratitude in your heart. And if you slip and become critical or judgmental of yourself or others, immediately send God's love into these thoughts and feelings and turn from them inward to his light and his love, and ask that he forgive you and move up into the light of his love. If you feel that you must ask forgiveness, it is all right, but it is really not necessary. Because you see, my dear ones, God does not judge you. God does not criticize you or condemn you. He only loves you. When you can get this understanding in the deepest part of your consciousness, when you can know it instead of just think about it in the deepest part of your heart, then there will be no way that you can condemn yourself. There is much love in this circle tonight. There are many from this side who have come to join in with you. And the new ones who are here tonight, their teachers and guides are with them. And I would have them to know that they are loved greatly. That the love of God and their teachers and guides, manifesting this God's love, is with them, helping them, upholding them through any trial and error, through any times of turbulence. Let not the world hold you down. Let not the illusions that you run into daily, many times, capture your attention and run away with your thoughts. Keep alive the love of God in the deepest part of your being, and let it shine forth, that all may see and know that you have walked with God. Love is the answer to all things. Love is the key that unlocks the door to any realm, to any dimension that you would attain. Love is the way to manifest anything that you want on the physical plane. And I would have you know this because, my dear ones, everything is created out of the substance of God's love. It is the love of God that brought into being the created universe. It is the love of God that maintains it. And if you would give this a thought, when you are on this planet Earth, that is just a small speck in the whole of creation, if you would think of how great a love it is that animates the whole of life, the whole of the universe, the cosmos, everywhere. Think how great this love is. And remember that even though there are billions and trillions of entities that God is manifesting through in His universe, you are just loved just as much as any one of those. And remember, your master teacher said, God is even aware of every sparrow that falls, and He has numbered the hair upon your head. When you think of how great the love of God is, and that is manifesting through you at all times, because the life force that you are is the love of God, then there's no room for criticism or judgment. And when there's no room for criticism and judgment, my dear ones, there is no need for forgiveness. Consider eliminating these feelings and thoughts of judgment and criticism, self-condemnation. If you trip and it slips into your mind, immediately send love into it and turn your thoughts to the love of God, and think how great and how beautiful it is to know that God loves you, that God does not condemn you in any way, that he only loves you, as you lift your consciousness through your path that you walk and through the understanding that you gain from your reaching out, you will know this without any doubt. You will allow yourself to have a personal relationship with the Creator of your being. And there will come a day when you know that you and God are one without any doubt whatsoever. And it will be a constant knowing, a constant binding of yourself to God and God's love, and your love for God, and your love for life, and your love for all humanity and all creation everywhere. This day is just around the corner. In true reality, this day is now, and you will come to greater and greater realizations as you move through your experiences on this plane, as you allow God's free will that he has given you to be given back to him, and allow his love to manifest through you, maybe just a little at a time each day. This is all right, and a little more the next day. And train your mind to remember that God is the life force that you are, and that his love is upholding you. Make every day a special day. Make every hour a special hour, and a praise of thanksgiving in your heart to his presence that dwells within you. Forgiveness is a beginning place, and it is a very important beginning place when you know not the difference of criticism and judgment, the illusion of criticism and judgment, because, my dear ones, it is illusion. But as you forgive yourself and others, and then you learn to love yourself and all of life, then you know that there's no need for judgment or criticism. You know that everyone is on their individual path, because you are all individuals, different from each other, but one with all life and each other. Your teachers have been giving you a chance to ask questions, and I would allow this evening, if you have questions to ask, feel free to open your hearts.
Eloah,
Yes.
could you explain to me that a little, back up a little bit, in the earlier part of the lesson this evening, you had said something about that God loves everyone, even if they have taken another's life. Could you explain to me where the Ten Commandments came from when Moses came down the mountain?
Yes. As you evolve back to your oneness with the Creator, you go through different phases, as you would say in your language. You, let us relate it to going to school. In the first grade, you learn certain things. In the second grade, you learn more. And you learn to read, you learn to add and subtract. and divide and to multiply. And as you move through what you call evolution, and it is a good word because you are evolving towards your true identity back home, as the prodigal son story said. The Ten Commandments were given to Moses as a guideline for the people, for his people at that time. Moses became a master and ascended with his physical body. When the people came to the Promised Land, as it was called, he was not with them because he had done his work and he had manifested God's ability through himself in many ways and led his people through the deserts of learning, through trial and error and many conflicts. And the people at times lost their way and lost faith. And it was at this one of these times that Moses raised his consciousness, or as it said, went up on the mountain. It represents raising your consciousness to a higher level, and brought forth these 10 Commandments as a guideline for the people to follow. These 10 Commandments are true for today when we look at them in the way of our understanding. We see them in a different light on this day than we did when we were in the time of Moses. But they are still good guidelines to follow. Would you elaborate on your question?
Well, one of the commandments says, "Thou shalt not kill."
Yes.
And I'm a little bit confused about that, about what you had said earlier.
When someone breaks a rule or breaks the law of the 10 Commandments, God does not love him any less or her any less than those who keep the 10 Commandments. Is this your question?
Yes.
Yes. You see, in your churches, you have been taught a God of vengeance in so many ways and in many lifetimes. Some of you have had this programmed into your consciousness, this God of vengeance of the Old Testament. God is not a God of vengeance. He is a God of love. You see, when it came out in the writings of the God of vengeance, it came through the consciousness of the people who felt guilty and felt that they needed punishment. And this is a misconception. It was a misconception then. But you see, it came through that consciousness that felt guilt and self-condemnation and felt that they should be punished. God does not punish you, my dear ones. He only loves you. You, in your misunderstanding of God's love, do at times punish yourself. Allow yourself to, what you call, break the law, or go against the grain of life. But you see, you cannot break the law, but you break yourself against the law. And in this way, you feel pain. You feel a separation from God. It is an illusion. Your thinking of separation is an illusion, but you still feel it. And being a co-creator with God, you create these conditions in your life, in your consciousness and in your life. And so you go through these experiences until you come to the realization that this is not necessary. It is not necessary to punish yourself for any so-called wrongdoings that you have done. When you understand this and realize it, then you can let the dead past bury the dead, because the past is dead if you leave it alone, if you do not allow your thoughts to go back to it. Then it has no power over you. Even the last 5 minutes, or before you came to class, it is dead unless you give it life with your thoughts. Do you understand?
Yes, thank
you. It is difficult sometimes for us to comprehend these things because we have been conditioned that if we go astray of what is considered the right way, then we have to be punished. As long as you believe this, then you will bring about the conditions in your life for punishment, for pain, for a feeling of separation. And my dear ones, a feeling of separation from God is one of the greatest pains that you can have. And it is manifested in many different ways through each of you who feel this separation. And it is not always a conscious thought, but it is an unconscious thought of feeling separate from God and God's love. And this makes you sometimes feel separate from each other. And so you fail to communicate in the right way. Communicate in a way that will give each of you the understanding and to share yourself with each other through true communication. Communication of love. Are there other questions this evening?
Oh, I'd like to better understand my relationship with God the Father and my higher self.
Yes, this is the path that we all travel. This is a path that everyone on this physical plane is traveling towards, moving into a better understanding of their relationship with God and God's love. My dear one, the only thing that is needed is for you to give over, or you might say give up, your little self to the higher self. Give up the personality to the God within you, and allow His love to shine forth from within you, for He is within you. And when you realize this, then you begin to feel His presence within you. You begin to feel His love, and you turn loose of any thoughts of guilt or self-condemnation. Much of you have this on an unconscious level and are not consciously aware of it, but it does manifest in your outer life. and then you wonder what has happened and what has gone wrong. I would say to you, my dear one, to release yourself at the beginning of your day. If you only say it in words, this is a beginning. And if you say it enough, Father, I release myself into your keeping for this day, and I would send your love ahead of me into this day to guide me in my every thought, word, and deed. If you say this enough, you will begin to feel it. And as you begin to feel it, then you will begin to know it, and you will know his presence within you. You see, God has given us free will, and he has given us the freedom to think of ourselves as separate from him and life and others. And we are co-creators. We are made in the image and likeness of God. And so as we think ourselves separate, we have created that condition in our mind, even though it is not true in the truest sense of reality. But it seems true to you. And all you need to do is continue to release yourself to God. And as you go through your day, if you feel a separation, do it again. Father, I release myself into your keeping, and I would send your love ahead into this next hour, this next minute, whatever the situation is. Learn to live in the presence of God's love. Learn to understand that he is your all in all. For in true reality, my dear one, without God and God's love, you would have no being. Does this help your understanding?
Yes, thanks.
Yes. It is not easy to turn your life around when you begin to want and feel that need for a change, feel that need, that lack within yourself, because you have not given consideration to who you are and where you came from and where you're going. When you have not given these things thought and consideration, then it takes time for you to get this into your consciousness. But if you will continue to say the words, you will begin to feel them. And if you have to say them 100 times a day, do so, or even more. Are there other questions?
Eloah,
Yes.
each day some of us send love a number of places, including to the souls in transition that have graduated, they departed this plane. And I wonder, is there a transition period, or how much of a transition period is there that they go through in forgiving themselves and looking back on their lives? And or do they gain an immediate insight that speeds them along more than we do? I guess it's a two-part question. I wonder if, I have a couple of friends, Leo Smith and Robert Burford, that has recently graduated. I wonder if they have any lessons or helps that can be passed along for us to learn to speed us on our acceptance of who we are and our forgiveness, or do they do things differently once they've graduated?
Each one is an individual expression of God. No two are alike. And as the individual separates himself from the physical plane through what you call the experience of death and graduates to another dimension, each one has a different experience. And you cannot make a standard judgment on this. It is an individual thing. And your place is just to send them love and release them to God and be at peace about them. They are learning and growing, some slower than others, some faster. Your two friends are making marginal progress in their understanding and the life that they have moved into from the physical. It is sometimes difficult when you lose your physical body because you are so used to having a physical body. It cannot be compared in this way, but I am going to give you the comparison anyway. It is like wrecking your car and then you are without transportation. And if you live in an area like the Phoenix where you do not have the subway as they do in New York, for example, it is difficult for you to lose your car and not have the transportation. But it is much more than that, because they are manifesting on another dimension that they may not be used to. They always have help. There is always someone to meet them. And if their relatives or friends that they are close to has gone before them, and they have a close tie with them, it is usually these who meet them and help them to understand that they have a different life now, that they have gone through the experience that you call death, but they are not dead. They are alive, and they can move forward as rapidly as their understanding allows them to. Does this help your question?
I see it clearly. Thank you.
Yes. Are there other questions this evening? You are my beloved servants because you are serving the Father God to let His light and His love shine forth on your plane that is mostly in darkness. Most of the individuals who are in the physical body on your earth plane do not have a real understanding of God's love for them, and they have many misconceptions. You are moving into a greater understanding every day, and each day when you awaken and your body moves from your bed, start with a thought of gratitude. Start with a thought of love and feel God's presence. Even if you have to say the words out loud, I know that God is the life force that I am. Or if you cannot say them out loud because of others around you, think them in your mind and put feeling and emotion behind it. Begin your day with the thought of God's presence He is closer to you than your hands and your head and your breath, because he is the life force that you are. You and he are one, just as you are one with all of life. Remember this as you go through your days, and keep alive the thought of love. It helps you greatly, but it also helps others around you, whether they know it or not. When you are thinking thoughts of love, you're sending out vibrations of love, of God's love, and others around you are being affected by it, whether they are conscious. Questions? Feel free to speak your heart.
Yes, I have a question.
Would you speak loudly, please?
Yes. Is there soul advancement in helping others on this planet?
Yes, there is. But your prime motive for coming to this plane is your own soul's growth. And you see, my dear one, as you help yourself through understanding God's love and the laws that are eternal, through manifesting them in your life, then you automatically help others. Some make an escape from their self and their own growth through going through helping others. This I am not saying that you had in mind, but I am just saying that this is sometimes an escapism from their own soul's growth. You come first. You see, my dear one, you cannot do anything for another. You cannot really help another grow, because each individual their life is between them and the God within them and no one else, because they are the only ones who can change their consciousness. You may say words of inspiration and send them God's love, and this may spur them on if they are ready. But if they are not ready, then this falls on deaf ears. But when in the final analysis, you do not really help them, you may be used as an instrument, as I am using this instrument to communicate with you and to help your understanding. But you see, it is up to you to accept the teaching and to assimilate it into your consciousness and then to use it in your everyday life. It is not up to me or even the channel that I speak through. It is up to each one of you individually to be open to the truth, to be open to God's love, and to let it manifest in your life. Every moment as you go through your day, you are choosing to think loving thoughts or the opposite. Do you understand?
Yes.
Yes. It is good to be able to ask questions and to understand and to allow the communication to come through on a personal level. When each one of you asks a question, everyone in the circle benefits from the question and the answer, even though they might know it in truth. You see, when you are in this circle, you are joined together in God's love in such a way that you are truly one, more so than when you go on your way. In this circle of love, you have come to learn and to grow and to understand, and you are of one accord. And each one of you are lending your life force and your thoughts and your feelings to this circle. So you become a very powerful force. And as we close our communication tonight, I would ask you to think how powerful this circle is. And at this time, let us think of God's love flowing through each one of us, and know that it is multiplied as many times as there are individuals here. And let it go out to cover this world, a blanket of God's love. And let it go out to each individual on this planet, and each who are connected with this planet. Let an extra abundance of God's love go to the world leaders and to all those connected with the world leaders, to all the trouble spots in the world. And let us think of God's love going ahead of us into this week, into each day, into each moment. And let us remember the lesson of forgiveness tonight and carry it forward to the understanding of God's love, that when we love ourselves and love life, then there's nothing to forgive. God bless you, my dear ones. It has been a special joy and a great privilege to share God's love with you this evening. Good night. Shall we hold hands? Let us think of joining together in the physical as we have been in spirit. And let us feel the presence of God manifesting in and through each one of us in this circle. Let us include the whole of mankind in our circle this evening. And as we're holding each other's hands, let us think that we're holding everyone's hands, and that each individual and all of creation are in this circle, because in true reality they are. We are all one. Thank you, Father.
I meant to express to Ella that it was a special treat to have him be our speaker tonight. I've never sat in when he was the teacher.
Yes, I thought he might be tonight. I felt his presence earlier, and I think it was last week or sometime that I mentioned that I felt his presence around. And he was our main teacher at the Oasis, in the Oasis group. And he's such a beautiful soul. When, before I got into the group, George and Alice had a friend who was a very good medium and was clairvoyant, and they asked her to attend one of their sessions, and she described Alva to them And as best I can remember, she said he had long, white, flowing robes, and that light was emanating from him, and that he wore a red ruby on his forehead. His last incarnation was Oriental, but he was educated in England, so he had a very good command of the English language. And some of the members were writers, and so they were very good with English, and I'm sure that he communicated much better through them and through me because of the lack of word understanding. But his presence was always of love. And every class that he gave was from the point of divine love.
I thought he was very good lesson tonight.
Our two here were here last night. Or were you? You weren't here last night. This is your friend? Tell me, I'm confused.
Kim and Tim.
They're
They're in a self-hypnosis class.
they're,
Oh, not?
No.
Oh, Tim is.
Tim is coming.
Oh, okay.
Let's see, the other lady's name was what?
Phyllis?
Phyllis, yeah. I thought she called today and asked. I thought she was coming, but I guess she didn't make it. We have a self-hypnosis class this Saturday at 9 a.m. And we could use some more people in it.
Maybe Gadon was on vacation this week.
Well, I doubt that. I think that he was here.
Yeah, right.
Ella always starts with a prayer, and I was conscious of that at first, and I knew that was him.
How many years have you been working with Ella?
Well, I joined the group in 1957.
31 years.
In this incarnation.
In this incarnation, yeah.
That. It's a beautiful experience to have that contact and to allow it to come through. And everyone has their own contact if they would just realize it, accept it. One of the first things is to learn to accept it. You know, to accept the possibility that you can contact the other dimensions. Everyone has a guardian angel or a teacher and guide, and you're never alone. Some of you have contact with your teachers, but all of you can if you open up to it. Sometimes people are afraid of it, have a little fear about it. But you see, when Elwood taught us, when we first started, we had interference with low entity, you know. And when Elwood took over, that discontinued because he told us he'd give us his protection. And we asked him how to protect ourselves. And he said, your motive is your protection. Your motive. Mm-hmm. Your motive, I guess, in making contacts. And there's really nothing to fear because no one can really harm you unless you accept their suggestions. And that's just, they can't harm you. They can only harm you by suggesting you do this or that, and you can do it or not. You know,
Now, sometimes I wonder if this is what we need to ask you. Is it part of self-condemnation sometimes, company? Like myself, I see, especially right now, a real good friend of mine is having a lot of problems. But normally I would commiserate with her and feel sorry for her and so forth. But since coming to these classes, I look at her and I wonder why it is that she's making herself go through all this pain, but I don't really feel sorry for her. No. And yet at the same time, then I feel guilty because I feel like I'm not being
Jesus taught the difference between compassion. You can have compassion, but to feel sorry for someone's pity, and no one need the pity, but to have compassion for them, and to send them God's love and release them to God is all that's necessary. Everyone has to go through their trials and tribulations, or whatever you want to call it, until they learn that they don't have to. The silent group tonight, feel a lot of presence here, that everybody's laid back and silent.
Don, I was curious, kind of goes along with Bill, is it? About, say, a soul graduates. Is there any, say, a love connection between someone on the physical and the person who passes over? I'm wondering if there's any connection where they won't proceed in the way they're supposed to go, connecting with, the sorrow and the mourning from the person on the physical.
This can happen,
and vice versa.
We had an example of this at the Oasis. Frank and Thelma were the ones that had the hardware store, that George and Alice stopped out at the trailer, and they later sold their hardware store and became part of the group, moved to the Oasis, still there. But Frank's brother died, and his wife just couldn't get over it, And so we asked Elva about it, and he said, yes, whenever she thinks these sorrowful thoughts, she automatically attracts him to her. And then she feels his presence, and that makes it, compounds it and makes it worse. And so we sent love to the situation for 2 or 3 weeks, and Elva told us one time that they decided to put him to sleep on the other side for a while. And he was asleep over there, so he wasn't attracted to her, and finally she got over it.
Is that right?
Yeah.
That goes along with that transcript you gave us, the book that wasn't really a book, it was the sheets of paper. They were talking about a sleeping period or an adjustment period some need to go through.
Yes. When people are ill for a long time, that leaves a scar on their soul. And every case is individual. And sometimes they take them to a place like we would call a hospital, but it's a place of healing. And they have these healing rays. And they do sleep for a while, as we would think of sleep, and until the healing is complete, and then they come to and go on about their business.
That's interesting.
If you meditate a lot stuff and get that practice down, that transition isn't as long, is it?
Transition isn't as long.
The sleeping part.
It need not be at all, for most people. It's just those who have been ill for a long time. And when you are aware, like most of the people in this circle are, of who you really are, if you were to graduate right now, there wouldn't be any, there'd be immediate awareness of the thing.
This last week I was on vacation. I caught the Phil Donahue show, and they were talking.
We played the tape. Sally taped it.
Is that
and
right?
we played the tape the other night. That was interesting.
That was
near-death experiences.
Mm-hmm.
What night was that? Thursday.
That was Thursday night after our class.
They come to.
Was that the one where
Like a near-death experience where they all said the same thing. This happened. Through the film where they saw.
Yeah, it works. A good show too. It worked.
Kind of like the scene I've never had, but I've heard it every time, you know, it's been on, but I hear it.
I can't hear what you're saying with that.
Sorry about that.
Share it with us, Steve. Don't keep it to yourself.
Trying to get her to come to class tomorrow, but she's not going to be here.
I'll be out.
So that allows me a perfect opportunity to mention that Sally's conducting or facilitating a course in miracles on Thursday night. Starts at 7.
And it's open to everyone, and
Good everyone. And I think that's helped my understanding a lot the short time I've been here.
I haven't had it, but everyone that I talked to about it said it's very good.
It's amazing the insights that I seem to have gotten that helped me with the other courses.
And it's amazing the lady who channeled it didn't even believe it.
She was, yeah. Good.
But it was Jesus who channeled that the whole thing to it.
It's very consecrated of forgiveness.
And it
Fits right in, doesn't it?
that what was that book? What's the name of that book? Goodbye to Guilt.
Yeah.
Jim Hoff, he talks about it in that. Oh, that's just a nice feeling. Nobody wants to leave. Oh, let's follow the class and we'll see you on the other side.
It won't seem to. It won't work. Because it couldn't fit.